You'd be hard-pressed to find a place more appropriate for a race than a place called the Motor City. Detroit is the latest addition to the iRacing service, and appropriately, we kick off round 1 here. But this will be a trial by fire for any rookies, because in terms of punishing racetracks, this one ranks up there with some of the toughest. Bumpy, narrow, and unforgiving, it'll be a real test for even the best drivers in these GTE cars. We'll see who's got the grit and the skill as we get ready to watch the premier Racing League American iRacing Tuesday series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Bill Soup Zahn. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Bill, with this being such a new track, why don't you tell our viewers a few of the stats and facts about this place?
Okay, well, the Detroit River is the border between Michigan and Ontario. On it, on the U.S. side, floats 982 acres of park known as Belle Isle, home to the Belle Isle Aquarium, the Conservatory Nature Center, the Detroit Boat Club, a municipal golf course, and the James Scott Memorial Fountain, a fixtured landmark near the 9 and turn corners on a 2.3 13-turn temporary street circuit that takes over the island on race days. Now, like many temporary street courses, it's tight and passing is at a premium. The main characteristic of this place might be the very bumping racing surface, a combination of smooth concrete, worn concrete, new asphalt, and old asphalt that will challenge the drivers as they discover where they can push hard and where they'll need to be cautious. Belle Island has hosted a multitude of auto races since opening in 1992, currently hosting the Verizon IndyCar Series and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, among others. But let's take this opportunity to let you, the viewer, enjoy the beautiful landscapes as well as several signature features as we jump on board and take a lap around Belle Isle.
All right, we're in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Detroit. Down into turn 1, these are two of the fastest corners on the track, and you got to be careful about the car getting loose on entry and exit. This crest has garnered a reputation for being unforgiving, and you'll understand why once you drive it. Heading down towards turn 3, you'll drift it across the track and then be ready to defend or attack, because this is one of the few good places to pass around this circuit. That tire barrier on the outside is just waiting to snatch you up, so be careful about how aggressive you get into this corner. It's a short little burst of 4, which can be taken a bit faster than you'd expect. Quickly, you'll switch sides, and then 5 is going to feel supremely tight. It's off camber with a tall curb on the inside and a wall that creeps up on you on exit. Then there's a rise at 6, which is likely to give you some understeer. It's important not to get a bad exit on this turn, though, because it feeds onto the backstretch. This is one of the longest acceleration zones of the track, so you really don't want to find yourself under attack here. It's particularly tricky in the braking zone, so battles that erupt can often lead to an early end to your race. From turn 7, we feed into the fountain section. It'll be pretty much all single-file racing here unless someone screws up horribly. Even then, you've got to be careful not to plow into the back of the car ahead if they do clobber the wall. Turn 11 will be surprisingly slow and has some pretty nasty bumps right in the middle of it to add to the difficulty of getting the power down. 12 and 13 are going to be a real test of bravery. No runoff with tall curbs on the inside. These bends are basically about how fast and how accurate you can be. Plus, being slow could put you under attack into turn 1 because you won't be lifting around 14. But hopefully, you've now finished a lap around Detroit. There you get an idea of how narrow this street circuit is. It really is incredibly difficult to be right on the edge for these drivers. It'll be certainly a test for even the fastest guys out there. Now, Bill, we are starting the next season, but we still have points for last season to go over, as it was a very interesting championship, even though it was decided before the final round.
Yeah, it was. And it was Christian Garreton who really kept Benjamin Perez honest all season long. You see that Perez won one more championship. I believe that's 3 in a row for him now, as he won in season 10 and 11. He won again in 12, and now we go into season 13. Perez and Eisler are both here. Sergio Pismaujo, he started off a little bit slow. By the end of the season, he was running with the front guys. He's back again as well. Look for him to be a true contender for the championship. Juan Landini and Kenny Duvall both back also. Let's go down and look at the team championship. That was SDS Racing Blue. And, of course, that had Eisler and his teammate Montini. They were really the class of the field. Asturia World Team did the best they could. Now, all the other teams are kind of mixed up a little bit. They have different teammates. So we'll get to know how the teams sorted out and their rosters as the season goes along, Joe.
Indeed, and with a new car as well, we'll see who prefers what out there. Now, for those who have not watched one of the PRL races here before, why don't we give you an update on what you're in store for this season, especially this race. As we mentioned, we are in season lucky number 13 out here, and we are on round 1 of 10. The drivers do get a single drop week, so you can allow for at least a mistake, a serious mistake, but you really got to be consistent or else you won't be able to get that championship, that 4th in the case of Perez. The cars that we have out here, as I mentioned, 3 of them, not just the Ferrari 488, not just the Ford GT, but now they have the Porsche 911 RSR, the GTE Porsche out there. Porsche, excuse me, for all the purists out there. That is racing now in this series. The race today is a 45-minute race, and we can expect 1 pit stop, which will be important out there, as drivers will really have to practice their pit in and pit out. The setups are open, and as we said, because of the expected pit stops, you would guess that the fuel is restricted from what these cars can normally run, which is why they are going so short before they need fuel. The incident cap out there, well, they've got 30, and honestly, I'm not sure how you'd get up to 30 around this track before without the car being gone, because you have no fast repairs this season. So you break it, you bought it. And Bill, it's going to be an interesting one because we have a lot of cars out there here for the opening rounds, and it's going to be some fresh faces. And man, they've picked one of the most toughest tracks you can race on the surface to challenge these guys. I'm kind of shocked.
Oh man, short of putting it at Bathurst, I think this is going to be even harder than Bathurst. Yeah, we talked about at Bathurst. We always talk about track blockage, and I think this is something that could happen here because, like many street courses, it's really tight. I mean, it's a concrete canyon between the 2 walls, very much like Long Beach would be. In fact, it even has a fountain like Long Beach does. You talked about the fast repairs that they took away. There was a lot of talk about that in the forum. What the series officials think it's going to do is really make the racing more exciting, at least the season championship more exciting, as a mistake now is really going to cost those drivers. If Perez or Eisler were to make a mistake, they could end up, yes, they get a drop week, but at least they'll have to use it.
Certainly will, and as I mentioned, consistency is going to be even more important to taking a championship, as we're watching Cameron Barry decide that he doesn't want to complete that lap. Right now, our pole sitter is Daniel Pinto, interestingly, leading by 1/100th of a second, actually less than 1/100th of a second, over Christian Eisler. And in fact, I don't see Perez until 5th on the grid right now as they continue qualifying. They've got a few minutes left, so Perez can improve, but track position here, Bill, this is not the start that Ben wants if he wants to take a win today.
No, this is certainly one of the tracks where qualifying is going to be huge. And you talked about Pinto. He's a new driver to the season, to the series, this time racing in the 969 machine. Look for him to be fast. They have a lot of influx from South America, a lot of Chilean drivers, not so many Brazilian drivers, but a lot from Chile. We have some Colombian drivers and several drivers from Uruguay, which is unusual.
Huh. Those are new ones to me. I did not realize that. Yeah. But boy, man, if Pinto stays on the pole, and if he can go from pole to pole and take the win, he will certainly explode onto the scene for this series. Other major players that we want to keep an eye on, Guillaume Dupont, sitting in 7th right now, but he's actually not out on track with so little time left. I guess he is happy with that. Good to see him return and see if he can maybe improve a few positions. I think Barry sitting in 4th is another new one that we did not see last season. As far as other players that tended to be up front, I see Carini well down the order in 12th. I guess all this influx of new drivers includes new talent.
Yeah, very much so. It's going to be interesting. We're going to learn a lot. Not sure how much we'll get to really be able to gauge what's going on, as this track is so unique compared to some of the other ones that they race. And like you said, I think attrition is probably going to take out a large percentage of those drivers that we see up front. Survival might be the word to get you to the end.
Yeah, I think I would bank on that as well, especially in terms of some of these corners, which have earned a little bit of a reputation, especially turn 2. Not just because it's tough for drivers, Bill, it's tough for anybody driving any sort of car, it seems, through that corner.
Yeah, that one is the one that sets up the long straight down into the very best passing zone into 3. But yeah, turn 2 will get you. And it's tempting because you've seen guys try to make a pass down in there. And as for the most part, when that happens, boy, you're really rolling the dice if you try that. Your best passing spots are going to be down into 3. And then out of that long back straight as well that runs along the river.
Yep, down into turn 7, although that's got a very tricky curved braking zone. So I wonder how many drivers will be able to hold on to it as they try to woe the car up and get by somebody. Just 2 minutes left in qualifying. Let's see who of the top runners are still out there trying to improve. I see Eisler. Oh, he's actually coming to the line right now. Remember, he only needs less than 100th. Can he finally get onto the pole? The answer is no for this lap, as he sets a 26.6, so just about a 10th down from Daniel Pinto still.
We talked about the influx of foreign drivers, or at least South American drivers. It's hard to say foreign. Of course, you and I from the U.S., that we're foreigners, depending on where you live. But one driver from the U.S. is sitting in 4th. He's hailing out of Florida. That's Cameron Barry in the car number 23. Another new name to the series. Looks to be fast. You get an idea, Joe, of what the race is going to be like by the pre-race conversation. It seems like the overall theme was let's be careful early. That's what everyone was saying. I don't know if they're going to be able to to do what they're talking about.
Well, yeah, the race director was really driving it home. He did not want to see something messy, especially with this one being broadcast. It was like the drivers to try and represent the league well. And, interestingly, Bill, I mean, we could be counted as a foreign broadcaster, if anything, because I believe it's a Canadian-based league. So
it is definitely. Yes. It's the old American, just everything centers around us. But no, exactly. Certainly. But this is really, there's interesting. In fact, there is one team called NAFTA, which is the North American Trade Agreement. I think it's in there. I go, what the heck is going on? So there is Team NAFTA.
Oh, and Eisler has called it a day. He's given up on it. So with only 20 seconds left, he has decided he's not going to be able to improve his time. The front row, the outside of the front row, is the best that he's going to be able to do. Checking to see if anybody else. Pinto is actually still going. He really doesn't need to, I don't think, at this point, because, wow, none of the top 7, top 8, 9th place drivers, the last one still out there, Eric Luke, and he should be able to complete this lap as he comes through 12 and 13, but he's going to give up on it.
Yes, interesting. Maybe he had an off that we didn't know about and he knew it wasn't going to count.
Yeah, could be, or just wasn't happy with it, could have been watching his split times and decided, I'm not going to be able to improve. Really not worth spending my effort. Just focus on getting ready for the race from here on out. As the clock ticks down, the reason that's doing that is because the checkered flag has fallen and they are allowed to finish their hot lap. So that clock is just to show the drivers this is how much time you have to finish that hot lap. I'm not really seeing anybody attempting to do that, though. Pretty much everybody has decided to peel into pit lane or just pull off the side of the track. I think we are ready to go through the starting order. So let's pull up your grid. On the pole, it is going to be Daniel Pinto. And newcomer is going to have himself flanked by Christian Eisler, our challenger for last season. He is ahead of Sergio Maujo, who all last season seemed like he should have gotten a win, but I'd have to check my stats. I can't remember if he wound up getting one or not, but he was always up there. Cameron Berry is starting in 4th with Ben Perez starting the race P5. Sebastian Maciera starts in 6th with Guillaume Dupont starting in 7th. Juan Manuel Landini begins in P8. He's followed by Eric Luke behind in the row behind in 9th. And Michael Overbay starts in the top 10.
There are drivers we got to know from last season. Matthew Fraley and Jean Carini go 11th and 12th. In the Baker's Dozen spot, it's Eric Thatcher. Justin Hall sits in 14th. The next row is it's going to be Fernando Rodriguez, and all ribbons and curls in the sweet 16th position is Andrew Fawcett. Evan Paust after that, he's going to be inside of Richie Pedinger. Then the last 2 spots in the top 20 go to Mark Feil and Owen McLaughlin.
Pete Mabroten will be starting in the blackjack spot, followed by the double deuce of Richard Colomb. Cristobal Valenzuela starts in 23rd with Sean Kenning in 24th. Then the quarter century mark is going to be Gabriel Montañez. Danny Duchesne returns, and actually I'm curious if he's running his traditional Ford this season. James LeBlanc will be next to him in 27th. Moises Lobato starts in 28th. Gary Schilling will start this race in P29. Then I'll round these out. P30 is Karsten Quint, Takeshi Kita in 31st, and Lucio Vargas will start in 32nd. Going to be a rolling start for this race as they get behind the pace car. Only a couple corners, though, that they need to go through, and then they will be on their way. Bill, it is a new season. We got some new drivers. Do you dare make a bet on who is going to win today?
Yeah, I got this one down. You can forget about Perez because he's too far back, and I'd like to see what car Perez was in. He said he was going to give up the Ferrari for the Ford. He's not taken the grid yet. Maybe our director can tell me what car Perez is because it doesn't show up, and he won't get out there on the grid, so I can't really tell. He's in a Porsche. I got to think that's not going to work for Perez. I don't like the newcomer of Pinto. There's a learning curve to every series, so let's go with the veteran. He was the second fastest driver in season 12, and I'm talking about the Iceman, Christian Garrison Eisler. He's starting in that second spot. Look for him to know how to bring it to the checker flag first.
Certainly not an icy day up in Michigan, just on the border of Canada. 74 degrees, so it feels good out. But look at that track temperature. With the clear skies, it is up to 101. So it's going to be probably a little bit slippery. Not what you want with bumps on the track. Little bit of wind as well, 13 miles an hour. We'll see if that affects anybody. And not too terribly humid, even though it is the northern Midwest at 25%. Pace car, roof pace car, is off and away. I expect a number of these cars going to be in the new Porsche. New cars tend to be a little bit popular out there.
Cameron Berry, the only driver in the front 3 rows in the Ferrari. It was a Ferrari festival last season as they were the dominant car. Only just a sprinkle of Fords showed up.
Pinto's got control, waiting for the green. He accelerates away. And as we get going, Eisler's going to slot into second, but they're still side by side. Oh, and now Maljo tries to go for second, but he's going to have to wait patiently. Now they all hit turn 2. Are we going to get through here clean? That is the big question. I don't see any incidents. Yeah, great stuff. Already our leader down to turn 3, one of the most popular passing spots. This can also cause problems if drivers aren't aware of the stack up. And look at that. They accordion together, but still everybody through nicely. It looks like they heeded those words well.
Wow, they went through 3, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, and everyone was clean.
Well, Pinto might be the new boy, but he is already stretching himself away. That gap, nearly 2 seconds, Bill. He is looking very handy ahead of Eisler.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how the tires play out here if he's going to use up his stuff early. There is a stop to be made.
Oh, we have a little bit of a dive to the inside down into 7. That was Owen McLaughlin, but looks like he was able to come out of it. Didn't get the position. I think that was more of an emergency dive to make sure that he didn't hit the car of Mark Feil, who lives on for another day, as we watch our leader work his way now to complete lap 1.
They were single file through the Bowden section. Everybody clean. Let's give a tip of the hat to the entire field. Nice job, boys.
going to be difficult for anybody to go too wide through the fountain section. It is so narrow through there as we watch Daniel go over that infamous hump out of turn 2. I want to wait and see if anybody falls victim to overcooking the gas coming off that corner and spins it into the walls on either side.
Once again, a great job through the field as they continue nicely spaced out. In fact, I'm not sure if I've seen many passes on the track so far.
Yeah, ever since turn 3. Oh, yeah, Sean Kenny in a bit of a battle right now. That's Moises Lobato to his outside. So we watch Cameron Barry. This is down in 26th position that I'm watching.
Kenny in 25th, Lobato in 26th. LeBlanc back there, a veteran, in 27th.
LeBlanc giving watch. Wasn't able to capitalize on Lobato being slowed up by the failed pass attempt as they now hit the long back stretch along the river. You can see Kenny all very much safe, has pulled away. Lobato really not under threat.
Let's go to third real quick. This is Sergio Peace Maujo. He is the cork in the bottle. The Floridian Cameron Barry trying to make a move on him, could not get it done. He's holding up Barry and Perez.
This is what we'll probably see a lot of for any driver that was able to qualify well but not have good race pace. I mentioned track position, everything around here as they work their way through 1 and 2. Let's see what kind of exit Maujo can get off. That's going to be the critical thing, and that was a beautiful job, Bill, as now he's not really going to be under threat into 3.
No, now Maujo is a really, really good driver. I talked about it in the pre-race show. Last season, he was running, back half of the top 10. At the end of the season, he was running with the big guys, and that's what he's doing right now. But he is losing touch to the guys up in front as he's Eisler's now almost over 2 seconds ahead, and there's another 1.5 seconds to Pinto.
I'm sure Eisler's happy about that so that he can focus on trying to keep on the tail of Pinto. But indeed, that podium spot still locked down by Maujo as he gets hounded by Barry and Perez right behind him. A little bit farther down the order, we got another train starting to form as Maciera, DuPont, Manuel Landini, and Fraley all together. And you can count Overbay, I think, in that as well. A number of cars stacked up.
Again, looking, we don't need to go there, but just looking, usually a hard charger by this time, we'd see somebody in double digits. This shows you how tight it is. Danny Duchesne in riding in P23 is only up 3 spots. That's our hard charger.
Wow. Well, and the good news for us, Bill, is that he's rocking the Ford once again. So
attaboy.
Glad to see Danny still out there in the blue oval. Oh, as we see it on screen, a little bit of a pass attempt as Landini goes defensive. And excuse me, I think that was Maciera that was going defensive. It was DuPont on the attack in that green Porsche. He's got to be careful about how many times he takes that little look there, Bill, because you can see that both Landini and Fraley are right up behind him.
You're talking about Fraley. He's the only driver in the top 10 that has made up any ground. Look at this. Drivers 1 through 8 all racing right now in the same position that they qualified. You go down to Fraley racing in 9th position. He started in 11th. He's been able to pick up a few spots. Was able to get around, who would I guess would be Overbay and Eric Luke, who's racing back in 11th.
Drivers work their way between these narrow walls. Almost have to wait for a mistake. And that's often what we talk about at tracks like these, Bill, is just wait for a mistake from the car ahead. But I don't know about you. I wouldn't want to be too close to the car ahead if they make a mistake.
Well, the problem is there's nowhere to go if somebody makes a mistake because it's a canyon. They bounce right back in front of you. So, yeah, maybe it's good to be close. You can get around them before they do bounce back on the track. And, of course, pit stops are coming up, and you got to take into account the veterans versus the rookies. Not so much rookies as far as iRacing, but just rookies to the series. Do they know how to calculate fuel? Will they be able to get in and out? With the racing so close, Joe, pit stops can determine it.
Certainly could. We've seen that in other series that include pit stops. If drivers have only raced stuff in iRacing that does not have a pit stop, they might not be as familiar with all the little tips and tricks that you can use to gain those precious tenths when you're stationary. So we watch Masiera in 6 continue to try to stay ahead of DuPont, who has now started to stretch away from the cars behind. A lot of curb there from Masiera through 7. Not shy with those. I don't know what the Porsche does, but I know when I drove that lap for the lap guide in the Ford, I gave quite a bit of room to some of these curbs. There are some mean ones out there.
Well, you're talking about the Ford. Unless my eyes are deceiving me, can we go to car number 164 in 14th position? That looks to be a Ford of Justin Hall.
Indeed, I think you're correct.
Yeah, he's got a Porsche behind him. Now, it looks like a pair of teammates there racing for the team of HJ, both colored in, oh, here we go, blue and yellow. That's what I'm going to say.
Yep,
those colors.
You got it.
Right. Starting the season off good. And now they're behind Peace Maujo, who's back in 13th position. I got to see what happened to Maujo.
Yeah. I'm checking that as well because Brie and Perez are now by themselves in that battle, and Maujo was ahead of them before.
Had an off this lap.
Let's see if we can find that on the replay here.
Just in front of Barry, just in front of Perez. That looks like the corner that is heading down.
Oh, that was turn 7.
Yeah,
that was at the end of the backstretch.
Yep.
Well, I can tell you from looking at it, it's just a simple case of Maujo got pressured into a mistake. Boy, that'll be reminiscent for anybody who watched the IndyCar race this year, and poor Alexander Rossi did almost the same thing.
Just took it in there just too hot. He couldn't get it loaded up. He didn't hit anything. He just went into the runoff area. So now Maujo down to 13th, and that moves, well, that's Barry, puts Barry and Perez now in a battle. Remember, Maujo, I think, were the slower of the 3 cars between Barry, Perez, and Maujo. So let's see what Barry can do now. How about that interval? 4.7 seconds up to Eisler.
Well, the bad news for Pinto is that Eisler is keeping pace with him. I haven't seen that gap grow. It's about 1.5 seconds. Christian very much keeping the newcomer, our leader, currently in check.
You know, Maujo just put it in the wall again back in 13th position. This was, we're going to see if we can find this one. This looks like it might have been your corner, Joe. Maybe turn 2? I think so. Yep, it was turn, no, it wasn't turn 2.
Well, that's coming out of turn 3 right now. 4 maybe? That one can be tricky. Oh, we've gone a little bit farther back here.
We're gonna look for this because this is one of your top drivers here.
Didn't do it on turn 2 there. All right, well, we'll come back live. We'll talk about that one later.
He's gonna be happy we missed him, personally. I'm sure he's glad we didn't get that one. But he continues to fall now. He's got the Ford of Justin Hall in 14th position, trying to run down Maujo. And Andrew Fawcett back there, his teammate.
Watch Eisler stay close behind. Has nothing behind him, as you mentioned before. Barry now 5.5 seconds back and being challenged by Perez. This is really our closest fight up at the top for the final podium spot. It is now down between these two now that Maujo has fallen back. Heading down into turn 3. This corner especially very bumpy in the braking zone. And as far as I'm aware, I don't believe these cars have any ABS on them.
Boy, sure didn't feel like it when I was testing them out.
Let's go to lock them up.
Let's go to 5th. This is a great battle here. Masiera, he's being challenged by the yellow car of DuPont, the Porsche. And by the way, I've watched the 24 Hours Le Mans. I say it's 50-50 between Porsche and Porsche, to be honest with you.
What color branding does Mountain Dew have there?
Well, the DuPont car, when I'm looking at the 6th car there, that thing is green.
Sorry, I'm just teasing you. It's green. Yes, you said it was yellow.
Did I say it was yellow? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it has Taco Bell on top. That's what fooled me. Mountain Dew on the side. Yeah. Clearly, Mountain Dew is green, but he is really pushing.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, and here's the interesting thing, too, Bill, is as we've been watching this, you see them separated now. Just a few moments ago, DuPont had Landini right behind him. There's almost an ebb and flow happening between the DuPont and Masiera and the cars
got a good
behind
run here.
He's going to challenge. Masiera goes defensive into one. It's very hard to pass into that corner, but if you go offline, you can see how much this is causing Masiera to struggle. And this sets up DuPont for an excellent run into turn 3. He holds him down to the inside. Masiera's not going to give up the inside. He leaves just a little bit of space. They come together, but behind them cars are side by side. This is going to block everybody up.
Tried to find a hole that wasn't there, and then we can stay on the replay a little longer because it gets exciting when we follow, maybe look back at Landini after the contact. Landini does a good job. Look at this. There's no hole there, Joe. If there is, it's tight.
Yeah, I think that was just a little bit too desperate down there, and you can see I thought that maybe Fraley in the red machine was going to be able to get past Landini as they went 3 wide there into 4 and somehow came out the other side, but they stayed essentially in order.
Yeah, they're both still racing, just maybe the paint scraped off, but I guess the cars are still feeling good.
DuPont got to be a little bit frustrated, and I'm sure Masiera as well, wondering what he was trying to do, stick his nose in down what was barely a car width wide to the inside of that corner.
Well, I think DuPont was saying, if you're going to defend the inside, don't leave me a little space, don't tempt me.
Could easily argue back, if you're going to go for that gap, you better make sure that you brake for the corner. Yeah. Regardless, this is again for a top 5 spot out on the track. We're seeing it play out just how nefariously tough it is to overtake at this track, as we've seen very few successful passes. And we've got a taker for the pit stops, Andrew Fawcett, as he slips down out of the top 20.
There's our first biter, probably in the window. You know, what's interesting, Joe, about that battle between Masiera and DuPont, even though they were both in the wall, they didn't lose a position, and they're really starting actually to pull away from Landini and Fraley and Overbay.
We have a problem at turn 2 with Jean Carini. He's slipping down to 18th, 19th now. See if we can get him up on screen. This happened just recently. There you see he's still trying to get out. Let's get a replay to see what happened. Looks like driver error.
Maybe, and I think this is a little bit of coming in too tight and either punting Luke or putting it off in the runoff area.
There we see just the tail end of it. I think we can back up about 15 more seconds here.
He takes it in, and he has Eric Luke right in front of him, and he has an option of either getting into the back of Luke or making the car go straight. There you see Luke.
Yeah, just takes the safer option, try not to take out his competitors. As we come back live now, he does return to the track, but a lot of positions lost as he falls all the way down to 24th.
About the only way this track is forgiving is that type of incident where you bring it in too hot and you know you can't make the corner and you just take the runoff area.
Yeah, don't try to make the corner, just bail out early. So as we check in on potential battle for 10th, in fact, maybe even for 9th, is that's Michael Overbay at the top of these 3. Luke sandwiched in the middle, and Aaron Thacker there sitting in 11th.
Yeah, it's really those 3 cars there, Overbay, Luke, and Thacker. There are a few. Oh, right up in front, really close, is Landini and Fraley almost get together. Fraley trying his very best to get around Landini.
Wow, that was actually very brave of Landini because he chopped him off at the apex and only just made it through the corner without getting tipped. There we see the 2 of them still at it.
And these guys are right behind the other 2 that are putting on the show of Masiera and DuPont. Best action back here, 5th through 11th.
Absolutely is. Some of the closest fighting. Let's take a glance at what Pinto's been up to. Well, this is interesting, Bill. I'm looking at the gap, and he has started to open it up, but not by a whole lot. Just another little less than a second more than he was before over Eisler.
Not as much as you would have thought from the gap that he had early on. I mean, he had a second and a half by the time they finished half a lap. After that, Eisler's been doing a good job of just staying close enough where if Pinto does make a mistake, he'll be able to capitalize.
Can we get a replay on Matthew Frawley about 30 seconds ago? He lost a position, but it didn't start out that way. See if we can pull this up on our reel.
Number 29 was Frawley. What he was trying to do, he was trying to make another move on Landini.
Yeah, down into turn 2. Need to go a little bit farther back than this. Maybe about 15 more seconds.
He's been working hard on Landini for a while, and it ends up costing him.
Well, it looks like we still don't have it here. But yeah, down into turn 2. Just wasn't quite up there, just wasn't quite on, and unfortunately the pace that he lost handed it over to Overbay, who gets himself up into 8th. Overbay in a Ferrari, one of the top Ferraris up there right now. Boy, let's go up to 5th position as boy. This is DuPont Joe. He continues to pester Maciera. Certainly does. He has just been right on top of him. I wonder if maybe that failed attempt has made him a little bit gun shy, though, because we haven't really seen another dive from him yet.
Between the two cars, there's a pair of Porsches. Maciera's car seems to be a lot less. Now he makes the move.
Speaking of whether or not he's made an attempt. Oh, and he gets into him a second time. Maciera collects it together without getting into the wall. Is he going to lose another spot? Yes, he does, as Landini sneaks by, but he finally stops the bleeding at 7th position.
Those two gotta... They need to go to charm school, because they're being very rude to each other.
I was going to say, this is the first race of the season, and I think this is setting the tone of that relationship between those two drivers. Got another good angle on just what went down. A few more drivers coming into the pits. And I think we had a severe... Oh, we had a big incident with Cristobal Venezuela. If we can go back about 60 seconds, this was into turn 2. It was between himself and Aaron Thacker, at least that's how it started, and then more cars got into it after that, trying to avoid them. Look at that on screen. Well, that just became a mess.
Venezuela, another one of those South American drivers, not from Venezuela, though, interesting enough. I think he's from Chile.
So as we come back live, oh, Eisler gained some ground. Wonder if Pinto made a mistake, because I don't think that Eisler was able to up his pace that much. What was 2.3 seconds is now down to 1.4. The number 727 starting to turn the heat up.
We talked about him staying close. Yeah, he's within just over a second now. Again, none of the top cars have pitted.
And you mentioned it earlier. I wonder, Bill, if this is going to come down to pit stops. If Christian can stay within about that 1 second gap, a good stop, a good in and out, that's all it'll take for him to jump Pinto, especially if Pinto doesn't know how to get a good pit stop out of this car.
I'd like to point out that the Iceman in second position has also given up the Ferrari. He's racing the Porsche. So again, those guys in the Porsche are going to have to get comfortable with how much fuel they need to take. They knew exactly what to do when they were racing the Ferraris last time.
Michael Overbay slipping down the order. He's currently sitting in 11th. Oh, and he almost runs into Justin Hall. We're going to watch the replay here.
Eric Luke catches him going by.
Oh, and this is our first victim of turn 2, I think, that we've seen.
And that's Luke, the second car on the scene. And those were part of those guys that were putting on the show for us back there. You know who they were. All those guys that were back in like 7th through 11th.
What if we could get an onboard of Justin Hall after we watch this second angle here? Because Justin Hall just squeaked through as Overbay was trying to get the car the right way around. Here we go. This is... Oh, I thought we were on board him a second. I guess we... Okay, we've jumped back a little bit. All right, we're watching. Coming through 1 and 2. Very blind corners up and over the hump. And suddenly there's a car there. And it's moving to boot.
Boy, it was rolling, yeah.
Very lucky escape.
There really is. You can see that there basically is just one. When a car is perpendicular to the track, there's just one lane. And if he's going to roll like that, there will be no lane. Okay, Pinto now picking it up just a bit. He's got it up to 1.6. You know what's interesting is Barry has Perez and Barry. They've been racing in tandem for the entire time for 3rd and 4th.
Yep. If we could come back live and check on our leaders here.
There, we're looking at Perez in 4th.
In fact, here we go.
And we have them both. They're side by side right now.
Yeah, into the fountain section, which is very difficult to do. And Perez found out just how tough it is. He has to give it up, but he sets himself up for a good exit, but he spins the tires a little bit. Not going to get a chance here into 12. Out of 13, if he could maybe get himself a launch, he could take a peek down into 1. I'd say he's a little bit too far back. Marie is doing a beautiful job fending off last season's champion.
The only thing good about going 2x2 through the fountain section, at least it's really slow there, and then your reaction times can be a little bit, you have more time to react. But I think Perez has had just about enough. We get a little bit of blink in there. It's a Ferrari up in front with the Porsche chasing it.
I was very surprised there that Perez didn't have a go down into turn 3. It was probably one of the closest he's been into that right-hander. But as he continues to follow in the tire tracks of the Floridian driver. Ooh, bad exit on the backstretch is going to make him have to regain all that ground.
And when we get a chance, as soon as that settles down, our leader is just about to catch some back markers here. He's coming up on Carson Quint.
And that might be the ticket that Garrettson Eisler was waiting for. Because traffic is one thing on a regular circuit, but in a street course, oh, and look at this, I think the smart move, yeah. Quint making one of your favorite maneuvers.
He took the words right out of my mouth there with the action. We preached it at the Back Markers United meeting when you got the leader coming up on you and you're in your pit window and you haven't pitted yet, pit! And that's what Carson did. Nice job.
Still, that little bit of time gained Christian maybe about another 10th or 2. He's down to 1.2. He's reeling him in bit by bit. And we can't guarantee that Pinto is going to catch the drivers ahead at that convenient spot every time.
I would not be surprised. We were watching the battle between Barrian and Perez. I wouldn't be surprised if Perez doesn't come off as soon as he can. See if he can maybe run a hot lap. The problem Perez would have to worry about if he gets caught up in traffic. But now the traffic's coming into play with these guys. Maybe Benjamin comes in and sees if he can do the undercut.
Yeah, I'd say that'd be the way to go for now. He's had such difficulty trying to get by the car of Cameron. Got to try something different.
The problem is for Perez, he's faster than Cameron, but not fast enough than Cameron, if that makes sense. He just can't finish the job.
Yeah, and, well, if he pits on one lap, it's going to have to take a phenomenal out lap for him to try and jump him in the pits. but still possible. I'm with you. I think if anything right now, this is what Perez needs to focus on, is hopping in there.
And coming up on traffic pretty soon, they got McLaughlin in 25th and Kita in 24th.
Oh, neither pit. And we're past halfway at this point.
We can go to driver in 24th position, car number 28. I was so discouraged when I was doing my research. Takashi Kita from South America. I thought we had a Japanese driver there.
People from other countries do move to other countries as well, Bill.
I've heard that.
Now, Pinto had to deal with some lap traffic in the form of Carini around turn 3. That slowed him down a little bit. It was 1.5 second gap between first and second just a bit ago. It is now half a second smaller. And look at this. He has got a whole bunch of cars coming through the fountain section. One of them dutifully pulls off to the side. Didn't see who that was, but did a great job. Now he's got Fernando Rodriguez. And they're catching a lot of cars here, Bill. This is already 21st that he's lapping out of a 30-plus car field.
Yeah, these are cars that have made their stop, so they're not going to be able to get out of the way now. Of course, Pinto has not, and again, maybe a good time for Daniel to think about coming in.
Nope, he decides to stay out. So does his rival, who's now got it down to 9/10. And this driver does not seem to be pulling over with any hurry up ahead of them. That is Rodriguez that I mentioned before. Nicely done, just out of the exit of 2. Pulls off to the left, lets both of our leaders through.
Let's go ahead and give a shout out to Owen McLaughlin in car number 5. He let the drivers in third and fourth go around him as well. Barry and Perez. But again, Joe, traffic up ahead of these guys now, so they come on Quinta and Schilling. This is fun.
Ooh, as we take a look back. Oh, that's McLaughlin that we're looking at. Actually, just behind, that was the battle that I was looking at on my screen. Perez and Barry, they're very close down into turn 3. But once again, Perez just not really sending it up the inside. I wonder if Perez is just trying to consolidate what position he can here, Bill, and try not to risk the car.
And again, they all start with the same amount of fuel. They don't necessarily burn the same amount of fuel because Perez has been following Barry for the whole time. Plus, a Ferrari, this sounds more thirsty than a Porsche does to me. So maybe he might be able to take less. 2 different makes being racing each other.
Had a change for position not long ago, maybe about 45 seconds ago, between Masiera, the number 7, and the car of Matthew Fraley. This was down into 3. See if we can pull the replay up for that. So we take a glance at this one. And looks like we'll need to go a little bit farther back here.
That's Fraley still ahead, yeah.
That's right after it happened there. That's the corner. So maybe about 20 seconds back. See if we could find it here. Well, it looks like we're looking at DuPont. Let's head back live. Oh, we got some of our top runners coming in. Landini's in. And Masiera.
And if we could quickly go to P3 real quick. This is Barry. Again, this is time. They just got around Lucio Vargas. This is really heating. Perez is all over him. Just will not pull the trigger. I think once Benjamin can get around Cameron, it's going to be good night, nurse. Clearly that Porsche is faster than the Ferrari.
So as we watch Barry do a beautiful job of fending off that Porsche, does Perez come in this time? Oh, he does. This is it. Barry's really got to be on it. Perez does as well. Let's see how this one plays out now.
This is where you really want to have your tier 1 class spotter letting you know what the traffic is going to be like when you come out. Barre's got clear track ahead of him. In a little while before he catches up to Montañez.
Yeah, that traffic could be, unfortunately, the nail in the coffin in this battle, depending on how quickly he catches him.
I think Perez is going to be okay. He's going to have nothing but the clear air in front.
Oh, a lot of clear air, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got Matthew Fraley up ahead of him. But really, Fraley's had decent pace, so I don't think that Perez is going to catch him anytime soon. So here's the question. Does Cameron respond? Does he come in and pit this lap?
Oh, I think he's got to. I think, yeah, he can't afford to stay out there. Perez clearly faster. He needs to come in. Just like if you're yacht racing, you have to tack, you have to cover. And talk about our leaders. Look at this. In fact, they're both coming in. Here they come. Oh, my goodness. The Iceman really had to lock it up. He came in really hot, almost got into the back of the leader.
But I think he gained some ground in that.
I do.
So as long as he didn't get a speeding penalty, he made a great decision there to take it in just that little bit, see what he can get off of his competitor. Oh, and Barre does pit.
Okay, the leaders are out together.
But in the same order. However, Eisler, 0.2 faster.
Yep.
As he is now within half a second.
And here comes Perez on the main straight, rolling.
Barre's rolling as well.
Barre.
Oh, it's going to be incredibly close. Oh, look at that. They're right back exactly where they were. Wow, great job by Barre. Well, if you're Daniel Pinto now, pit stop is over. You've got your main competitor breathing down your neck. He's been reeling you in. This is the point where Daniel has to give it full beans.
Yeah, this is the closest it has been since the green flag when they smoked their tires.
We have a little bit of traffic coming up. That's Owen McLaughlin and Takeshi Kita. Oh, as we watch the battle between Perez, looking to the outside as a defensive maneuver from Barre down into turn 7.
Oh!
Woo, he took it close to the wall.
Perez almost ran out of racing track there.
Using every inch of what's possible. Now, this is late in the race, too, so those marbles are starting to build up offline. He's got to be careful. Great stuff between these two. Again, this is for 5th position currently, but will be, I believe, for the final podium spot. Oh, he's very close now. Does he dare try and dive it into 1? I think he does. He looks to the inside. Backs out of it, though. DuPont pits is going to hand the position over to them. And so does Fraley. So things for our top 5 have gone back to where they were.
Barre hails out of Daytona Beach, which is certainly has some race history. And, of course, Perez out of Indiana. Not short of racing history as well.
Yeah. 2 places that claim to be the racing capital of the world.
That's right. Well, we'll let them decide. If only wars could be decided this way.
Oh, now is he going to have another attempt? What is Barre going to do on the defense this time? Do the same thing? It worked last time, but did maybe Perez learn something from that maneuver? He's getting close. He's weaving a little bit. No, but he backs out of it.
Boy, they're working it. Just over 9 minutes of racing to go. He's still got a... If he has a favorite spot, he'll have a... What about 5 more stabs at it?
Ooh, oh, did he just get into the back of him there? That was awful close as we were riding on board Perez. There was a bobble that came from Barre, and then Perez had to check up big time. I think they managed to avoid touching.
I don't think, we can look at this one, I don't think they got together. If they did, it would have been Barre really had the issue, kind of just caught Perez by surprise.
Watch them head out of turn 2, down towards turn 3. A little bit of a defensive maneuver, back to the racing line for Cameron. Ooh, wow, bad exit out of there. Here comes Perez, takes a peek to the inside. What about this traffic ahead of them? Is Gary Schilling aware of what's going on?
Nowhere for Gary to hide this car. He can hide it there. Wow. Nice job.
Wow, great stuff from Gary. Oh, but look at this.
Here we go.
Is it going to matter? Perez with a better exit onto the backstretch. He's got the inside down into turn 7. Cameron is fully behind. Unless he makes an attack, I think you can say this one is going to go to Perez. He's been working on this third place all race long. Look at Ben in the number 1.
As much as Gary Schilling got out of the way and compromised both corner entries for both those drivers, Perez probably just had a better run out of the corner and got it done, but they both had a shallow entry as they had to get around the lapped car.
There's that experience coming into play for Benjamin Perez. So, give P3 up to last season's champion with only 7 minutes to go. Let's take a look at our leaders, though. Remember, that battle was within half a second. Well, about 3/10 loss to the Iceman. I said that Pinto needs to give it full beans, and, well, he is on the gas.
Well, you saw how traffic played a factor in the pass for third. You have to wonder if it's going to happen here as they come up on Lucio Vargas.
Doesn't pull over like Gary did, but don't think he lost Pinto any time. He's going to let both of them through nicely. Honestly, these, out of all the battles on track, this is one of the closest. I do see that Fraley and Maciera are getting relatively close. That's for 6th position.
And if you remember right, Fraley had got around him before the pit stops. Maciera now has him back. They continue to battle the entire race.
Come on to the backstretch one more time. Both of them keeping out of the tires successfully. For all of our naysaying coming into this about how difficult things are going to be, I'm seeing 26 cars still out on track. Is that right?
Yeah, we've been very, very clean.
Impressive stuff. I think this league has really represented itself well.
A guy who deserves a shout-out. Let's look in on car 505 in 9th position. This is Richie Pittenger. I'm going to call him our hard charger. Yes, Lucio Vargas has 14th spot, but once again, Vargas didn't put in a qualifying time. So in the Soup's rules of racing, you don't get the hard charger unless you actually qualify. Look at Richie Pittenger, though. Started in 18th position, has cut that in half, and is out there in one beautiful-looking car. I'm going to tell you what color that car is, because if I pick one, I'll get it right.
I was just going to say, you said look at Richie Pittenger. I'm hard-pressed to not look at it.
Oh, man.
To tell you the kind of pace that our leaders have been running, though, which has closed back down, by the way. It's down to within half a second. They are 18 seconds ahead of Perez, our third-place driver now. They have just shot off into the
distance. Let's go to 4th position real quick, get a replay of it. Barry was making a move on Perez, and he couldn't get it blown up in time. Oh, no, was it a back marker? It wasn't Perez.
He wasn't really making a move. I think he was just caught out by his braking. Here we go. We'll see it at the end of the backstretch here. That's Cameron that we're watching in that Ferrari. And am I mistaken, or is that another? Oh, no, we've switched over for some reason.
There it is, right here. He's coming to come right at you. Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, I thought he was making a move on Perez, but Joe, once Perez has got around, I said it was going to be good night nurse, and it has been. He's left him.
And I was right. Now that I got a good look at the side of the car, Cameron is another one of our bush fig drivers showing up in this league.
Oh, they're everywhere.
You know, you can call pest control if you don't like the birds.
They are nesting. I know that Perez is racing for Bushfink, so we're going to learn more about the teams as the season progresses.
Oh, this is the closest the Iceman has been. He's now within 0.3 of a second. This is closer than when they exited the pit stops. Loses a little bit coming into the fountain section. 3.5 minutes to go, Bill. Eisler looking for a championship after coming so close last season. Does he go for the win? knowing that his main rival from last season is behind him? Does he play it safe? What do you do here, Bill?
Yeah, he's certainly racing with mixed emotions. He's not happy to be in second, but he's got to feel good about being ahead of Perez for once in his life. So, boy, if I know the Iceman, he's going to try to make a move. He'll try to make a move if it's there.
And you have to remember, Pinto, if he's racing this entire season, he could be a championship rival. We are again on round 1 of the Premier Racing Leagues, or Precision Racing Leagues, American iRacing Tuesday series. As they have...
That's money in the jar for Joe.
Yep, I know. I'm going to do that a lot, I'm sure. But there's still all this championship yet to go, and you can't quite point race at this point without knowing who you're going to need to worry about.
There are bonus points for being on the pole. There are bonus points for fastest lap, and 3 bonus points if you are below 3 incidents.
I think a lot of people are going to get that today, though.
Yeah. not a lot of room to cut the course here.
Go off for that matter. And we ride just on the dash of the Iceman, watching that Porsche lead the way the entire race. We've seen this in other leagues as well. They come around with, I believe, 2 laps to go this time by. But Bill, it seems like whenever there's a fast guy that just can't seem to win a championship, as soon as it seems like he's got an opportunity, somebody else fast comes along.
Yeah, well, it's one of the symptoms of being broadcast on the Global SimRacing Channel. You can't keep your series a secret. People watch it and say, "Hey, I want to be part of that."
Especially those fast guys. That's the lapped car of Duchesne, letting them through.
I know we're getting close to the end, and we're looking at this battle, but we could look at Perez real quick. He's coming up on a pinata full of bees here. That starts with Montañez, McLaughlin. Mobrodin is in this mess. I think Perez is just going to sit back there and wait. Yeah. He has that cushion thanks to the mistake that Barry made. I think he can afford to be patient now.
I agree. At this point, maybe set himself up for a good run off of the backstretch, or maybe out of turn 2, so that he can get by, because you don't really want to sit behind an intense battle because you can get caught up in it.
That's a good point. They go down the backstretch now. It's Pinto and Eisler.
Actually, they just headed out of the fountain section. This is to complete the lap and take the white flag. Pinto's first race here in this series. We wondered if he could take it pole to flag with the pit stops lining up between himself and second place. It's looking like that is going to be the case, but he's got to do it one more time around.
There is some issues in front of him. Mark Feil in 15th, Aaron Thacker in 16th. I'm not sure if they're going to catch them or not. I think he might.
Yeah, I think they will. At the very end of the lap, it's come down to 0.6 of a second between Pinto and Eisler. This is where he wants to be right on top of the rear spoiler of that Porsche, lest he get held up by the car of Thacker and Feil. Onto the backstretch. Oh, a mistake from Pinto, and he's into the wall, and now he's hit! He got hit by Christian Eisler. They're both able to pull away. Eisler just a nose ahead. Who is the less damaged of the two? It looks like the Iceman is able to at least get better acceleration off the corner.
They have no clue what they're driving. Yeah.
He's still ahead, heading into the fountain section. It's very hard to pass from here through the end of the lap. He's pulling away bit by bit. I said he had to complete this lap, and Pinto might complete it, but not in first place. Out of the fountain section now. 3 more corners to go. Christian Eisler would love to start things off with a win to try and take a championship. He's now being closed in on as Pinto's got a feel for his car. Is he going to go for it? How much can he defend here? Eisler tries to cover off the inside, and as they come to the line, Christian's going to take it. Who'd have thought? Benjamin Perez is still waiting behind that battle. So he is going to finish with a third place. I wonder if he has any idea of what just went down in front of him and how close he came to taking a win.
Let's go to 6th real quick. Oh, and it is Fraley who just made a mistake. He's going to lose all of his momentum down the back straight. He was closing in on Massier. These guys have been fighting forever.
Yeah, sad to see that one break apart at the very end as the drivers stream across. Not many close enough to each other to have anything change. Let's take another look at what happened back there with Eisler. It looked to me, Bill, like the pressure just finally cracked him and he went into the corner hot.
Yeah, that's what the Iceman does. Ice, it sticks on you, and then after all, it just makes you break after a while. Boom.
Yeah, just came in too hot. And, well, poor Eisler. We talked about the narrowness of this track. Plowed into him.
What was interesting is both cars ended up pointed straight, and it was a matter of, okay, let's go. What do we got?
Well, they got very lucky, too, that neither of them damaged their suspension, and that could have easily been limping their way back to the line as see the last of the cars come through. So with that, we're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. But stick around because on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC.
Okay. Sponsored by the Precision Racing League. It is the American iRacing Tuesday Series, Season 13, Round 1 from Belle Island. And boy, was it exciting. Let's run down your finishing order right now. He chased him the entire race until the last half of the last lap when a mistake by Daniel Pinto. They got together. It was a race to see who could get out first. Eisler gets the win. Christian Eisler picks up the first win and will be our leader in the point standings. Daniel Pinto, wire to wire, almost has to settle for second. Benjamin Perez was able to get around Cameron Barry there finally. He picks up the final podium position. Barry has to settle for fourth, rounding out your top five. A very quiet race from Guillaume DuPont. Sebastian Marciara was able to outduel Matthew Fraley as he gets sixth position. Fraley settles for seventh. The rest of your top 10 goes to Juan Landini, Richie Pedinger, and Justin Hall. And now let's see if we have Joe here with us.
Indeed, got my gremlins sorted out. 11th was Andrew Fawcett, with 12th going to Eric Luke. Evan Pust in 13th, followed by Jean Carini in 14th position. Then in 15th, it's Mark Fowle, followed by Aaron Thacker in P16. Lucio Vargas, first of the cars, to finish a lap down in 17th. Fernando Rodriguez in 18th. Moises Lobato in 19th. And Gabriel Montañez rounds out our top 20.
Hidden Blackjack, it was Owen McLaughlin in the double duck spot. It was Pete, Larry Curley, and Mo Brodden in 22nd. Tagashi Kito in 23rd. James LeBlanc after him. The quarter century mark, Karsten Quint. 26th position goes to Sean Kenny, in just ahead of Sergio Pismaujo, who qualified in third, finishes in 27th, 10 laps down. Richard Colombe, Gary Schilling, Michael Overbay, Danny Duchesne in his Ford, and the last car out there, Christian Valenzuela. All right, Valenzuela. Let's go with Joe. Who do we have for interviews here?
Well, why don't we start with our winner, Christian Eisler. The Iceman takes a win in the first round, but it certainly didn't look like he would at the start of this race. Let's go to the beginning of things, Christian. The first half of the race, you started to see new guy Daniel Pinto pull away. Were you just managing pace, or were you pushing as hard as you could? What caused him to be able to pull that little gap that he had?
Hi. The first half of the race, I was touching all I can do, but I think Daniel was managed the difference with me. But I was all the fast I can. I think I was the lap cars helped me to catch Daniel in the second half.
Now, you once you did finally start to catch him, obviously with pit stops involved in this series, we noticed that you decided to pit on the same lap. Did it never occur to you to maybe attempt to pit early and use an undercut to pass him, or did you think it wouldn't work?
I think I was trying to make my pit stop one lap before Daniel, but I didn't count with the lap car in front of us in that lap, so I was entered that lap, and Daniel made the pit stop at the same time. But I was trying additionally to be aggressive with the fuel. Maybe I can take the lead in the pit stop. So I think we made it the same time in the pit stop.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like it was awful close. You gained a little bit of ground. You were with him at the end. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. The final lap, you are right behind Pinto, and suddenly he makes the mistake and you run into him. Walk us through what you're thinking in this moment.
When he lost the car, I say finally he made a mistake. So, but I didn't count with the bounce in the wall. So I was lucky because my car was the steering wheel was twisted, but I can manage to go to the final to the final line. But I don't know. I was lucky at the end because we could be out of the race with that contact.
Absolutely. We were amazed that you were both able to continue and not lose positions, although I guess you could say that Daniel did lose one. Well, you leave this race with maybe not max points, but with the highest finishing position you could ask for. Congratulations on the win. We look forward to seeing you next round.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was Christian Eisler, the Iceman. Wins second place finisher in last season's championship. Second place in this race, Bill is talking to Daniel Pinto, the rookie. Didn't come away with the win, but still got a good finish.
Daniel, if I remember studying, I believe you're from the Iberian Peninsula, and I believe it's Spain. Am I correct?
No.
Portugal. Okay.
It's much better than Spain.
Well, my goodness, you have to have mixed emotions. You finished second, you gave away the win, but you had a nice, impressive run.
Well, not mixed emotions. I'm just salty. And I have one small announcement. If anyone from Anatec is hearing this, please do better pedals, because this one suck. Sorry. My throttle was spiking all of the race, and then on the last lap when I entered that corner, my load cell just locked. I had to kick my pedal, then that made me lost the car. Well, then Christian hit me, and I thought, well, he's gonna have damage, I have damage, so let him have it. He deserves it. It was my error, so okay. Next week we'll try again.
But you can work on the hardware and come back and give it one more try. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your favorite car on iRacing? Is it these GT3s you like to race?
Yeah, I usually race GT3. I usually don't race GTs. Just started again this week just to do this league. I usually race GT3s and sometimes the Spec Ford because, well, No one likes a Spec Ford, and that car needs a lot of love because it's hard to master.
Yeah, when I was doing my research, I saw in the GT3s. So why when you came to the GTEs, why decide on the? Was it a tough call? The Porsches new. You thought to give it a try, or between that and the Ferrari?
Well, I knew the Ferrari already. I know I can be fast in it. I tried the Ford. Well, I really don't like how the Ford drives. And then the Porsche. Well, I tried it. I'm slower in the Porsche than in the Ferrari, but I feel I can be a little bit more consistent in it. So as I'm not a hot lapper, I usually have better pace in the race than in qualifying. This was the exception. I usually don't qualify very well. Well, I just said, well, let's try the Porsche for the championship. Let's see how it goes. I'm just here for the fun, so, well.
All right. Well, work on the hardware. And my gosh, if you're that fast when your pedals are sticking on you, hey, we hate the drivers are going to hate to see what you're like when you got the equipment working right. Congratulations on a nice debut race.
Thank you, man. Bye.
And there you have it, Daniel Pinto. I like Daniel Pinto. He's a man with opinions. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to hear in an interview.
Absolutely. Well, a man that has a couple championships under his belt is Ben Perez, but only third place today. Ben, let's start before the race with qualifying. You could only put it in fifth. With this being a new track, are you struggling here, or what's your thoughts on qualifying so far down?
It's a new track, and it's very, very tough. It's a track that I didn't really get to put too much time into, so that's what I'm going to blame it on. It's just a really difficult track with the walls and how bumpy it is. I think it's bumpier than Sebring. At least it feels like it. So it's... I'm looking forward to next week because it'll be a track that I'm much more familiar with.
Yeah, I think I'd agree that this one is a lot bumpier than Sebring even. Now, the story of the race for you was the battle with Cameron for that final podium spot. And eventually you found your way by, but with a little help from a mistake from Cameron. Do you feel if you could have gotten by him sooner that maybe you would have been able to maybe catch up to Eisler and Pinto? Or do you think third is the best you could manage today?
Well, so at first I didn't think that I would be able to catch Daniel and Christian. So I was fairly content with just sitting behind Cameron, who's also a teammate, by the way. But yeah, I wasn't really too worried about it. But then I kind of started realizing that after the mistake that he made and I got past him and I made such a huge gap so quickly on him, that's kind of where I realized, oh, maybe I could have caught Christian and Daniel. But by that point, it was too late. They already had like a 15-second gap and there was like 10 minutes left in the race.
Yep. Unfortunately, I'm sure that shot your hopes away and just try to do what you could to finish. Now, you've got, as we said, a couple championships under your belt. And if I get this wrong, I blame Bill because he's the one that said it. 3, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think 4 in a row is possible? Can you do a Vettel?
Well, you get to blame Bill because it's actually 2.
Okay, there you go, Bill.
But do I think 3 in a row is possible? It's definitely possible. The competition is getting stiffer and stiffer with every season. Now, especially with Daniel showing a lot more pace than I thought he was going to, from what he's told me. And my teammate Cameron, who's also pretty quick. I think it's going to be a little tougher, but definitely still possible, and definitely going to work hard for it. Try to.
Well, we look forward to watching all 4 of you battle it out this season. Clearly, you 4 are the class of the field. Congratulations on a podium, and we hope to see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Ben Perez, our third place finisher there today. Bill, this was a good one for a track that is considered to be punishing. We saw a lot of finishers out there today.
Oh, we came into this one with, let's be honest, low expectations. We thought it was going to be a mess. I thought the drivers put on a great show. And we talked about the 3 drivers on the podium. For you guys who are new to this series and you want one more name to keep an eye on, watch out for Sergio Peace Maujo. He qualified 30, had trouble, finished 27th. Look for him to be competitive when we come back next round.
I concur on that one. But we're going to close up today And of course, we want to give a big thank you to the Precision Racing League for coming back and having us broadcast some rounds this season. We do have a few more scheduled, and we know that they would like to be back for more. We'll see what the future holds on that. We certainly enjoy covering this. Also, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go out to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or we're on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race is going to be at Spa. That'll be Tuesday, June 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss that one. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.